Hey there, fight fans. We are back. Well, I am back. You've got Kelly here today. Mikey's off frolicking, doing something more interesting, I guess, than talking about fighting. You might say to yourself, not possible. I would agree. But anyway, I'm here because we have a lot to cover off on. You might notice that we missed our episode last week. And some of you might be asking, Kelly, Mikey, don't you recognize that having consistent output of content is important with your strategy and a growing channel? We do recognize that. Mikey and I put together a fantastic episode for you last week, breaking down 321, and I forgot to hit record. I will never live that down. I have no words. I'm still learning, guys. Teaching this to myself late in life. But anyway, excited to break down a little bit of 321 for you. So much happened. I'm actually kind of happy that we're doing this after the fact because so much happened. And I think we saw an awesome prelim, lackluster main card. Also, before recording this, I was just rocking out to the new Limp Bizkit song, Making Love to Morgan Wallen. Fred, if you're interested in letting me use that for the opening to this podcast, I would be forever in your debt. 16-year-old Kelly would just lose her mind over something like that. Just a really fucking awesome song if you haven't heard it yet. Old school Limp Bizkit. It brings it back to, sometimes you've got these bands that come back out with music and you're like Weezer. You're like, come on, guys, quit it. You're not 16 anymore. We're singing about high school. But Limp Bizkit, always got it. Bringing it back, feeling like old school Limp Bizkit. Uncle Fred, come on. Let us use your music. Anywho, let's get into it. Before we do that, though, I want to take you back to the October 18th fight card because, honestly, it was a wild ride, and I want to talk about it. So here we go. Starting with the Ciryl Gane fight, which was just wild. I mean, clipped him with a flying knee, then got him with another flying knee that got him down for that submission guillotine. It was beautiful. I couldn't get enough of it. I've rewatched it like 12 times. Just nasty ground and pound after that second flying knee that allowed him to get that guillotine choke. Really, really great shit. Just super exciting fight. Win in Canada. It doesn't get better than that to win in front of your hometown crowd. Also want to acknowledge Drew Dober against Prepolec. This is one of those interesting things. So we had Cody Brundage and Bobby Brundage on last episode, and we talked a lot about the point deduction and even accidental fouls, what that looks like, how the judges should be handling it, how the refs should be handling it. And Drew Dober, got a point taken in round 3 with that groin strike. And I think I have a lot of feelings about it. One, it's inconsistent at best, which we saw with the Kevin Holland fight right after that. But two, obviously, I think Prepolec was probably pissed off because he gave Drew Dober 5 minutes to recover. Drew came back hard and strong, unloaded for that TKO win in round 3. So the point didn't really matter anyway. But it just kind of goes to show, where is that consistency with where we're taking points, how we're taking points? Obviously, Prepolec really upset about the fact that Drew Dober got 5 minutes to just chill and relax and catch his breath and come out with a fury. It just goes to show there's just a significant lack of consistency with the judges. I mean, again, we saw that in the Kevin Holland, Mike Malott fight. Kevin got hit with a serious groin strike, no point taken. Kevin is on the ground, taking the full 5 minutes to recover, clearly injured, separated from his corner. Again, you're not allowed to talk to your corner. You're not allowed to get advice from your coach. You are there as a fighter told, hey, make your decision. He's facing a DQ loss and has to make that decision. He's a tough guy. He wants to keep fighting. He's a very active fighter. He wants to keep going. He's got 50 seconds left in that round. And whole time he's holding his pants open, clearly in pain, and it ends in a decision loss. It's just really unfortunate that you've got these two situations that go the completely opposite way. Would the point have mattered? Honestly, in this case, I think it would have. But I mean, he was clearly injured. He was clearly in pain afterwards. I think I saw online that he went and got an ultrasound. I'm not a guy, I'm not pretending that I know what that feels like, but you could tell that he was not faking, that he was in pain. And it's just really unfortunate when you've got those groin kicks. Cody made a good point that, again, maybe those are the only inadvertent foul, because the way you're moving, the way your hips move, the way you are sort of, moving around in the cage, you could unintentionally hit a groin. But that was just, you heard it. You heard that cup hit. It was a nasty one, and it sucks. We love Kevin Holland. I saw he posted some stuff afterwards, too, about how he sucks. I just completely disagree. He's an active fighter. He never says no. I can't wait to see him back. I don't think he loses any street cred for this. Sorry to see that loss happen the way that it did. And then you've got RDR and Brendan Allen. So Brendan Allen takes the fight on short notice, is just really aggressively taking control and putting RDR in a place and in a position that I don't think that he was anticipating or expecting. And round 4, I was just completely shocked. It was such a weird moment for me watching the fights as a fight fan, because I really had no idea what was happening. The fight ended and it was round 4 going into round 5. I was confused. It sounds like his coach has come out and said, he threw in the towel for him. But, again, it's one of those things we talk about. The fighters are always going to be the people who say, I'm in this, I'm fighting, I'm a tough person, I have to be, I'm in the UFC. There are no pussies in the UFC, or any, fight promotion for that matter. And it's just, you've got a coach who knows his fighter, sees that mentally he's not in the game. He hadn't really taken that much damage from what I could see. He was clearly mentally defeated, and his coach calls it for him. I think it's this weird sort of dichotomy of like, that's the coach's job to know their fighter, to know, if it's worth taking more damage, if it's worth risking serious injury. I'm sure and have seen he's caught a lot of flack for that. It's unfortunate. It was definitely a whirlwind of a card. Lots of weird stuff happening on that one, but it has to be mentioned that 10-18 fight night was just sort of a roller coaster of emotions, and a great watch. Going back, let's talk about UFC 321. I'm actually pretty happy here that we did not show the 321 episode. Although I think we did have some really good hot takes. And I had talked a lot about the prelims and the preliminary card being sort of the heater of this event. And I think that we saw that it was. There was a lot of people who were really upset about 321, said it was one of the weakest pay-per-view cards in a long time. I think the prelims were awesome, and we saw all of the bonuses come in the prelims. So another reason why you should be like Theo Von and show up 2 days before the fight so that you can watch all of the craziness, all of the madness that's coming in on the prelims. Just exciting shit. So starting out with that Nathaniel Wood, Jose Delgado fight, just madness. Wood is a dog. He took a beating in round 1. I honestly did not think he had that win. I didn't think he had it in him. Obviously the judges saw something that I didn't, but he kept that pace. He kept that pressure. After that nasty first round, looked like it was going to be over, but he came back and he did enough to win the fight. I think he's a great guy too, very soft-spoken, but just tough as nails. Really liked seeing sort of, him come together and really just be able to take whatever is thrown at him. I think Delgado just seemed very precise and seemed very, to have that in the cage fight IQ, and, the judges scored it for Wood. It happens. Also, you've got Walter Walker and the Sutherland fight. If I were a betting woman, and I am, you put money, his next fight, on a first round submission. This was his 4th first round submission by heel hook. Dude breaks his leg in the fight also, taking a kick, breaks his leg, still goes on to get that submission. He can find a heel hook anywhere. It's wild. It looks like it shouldn't be there, and all of a sudden he can just maneuver in a way where you're fucked. Really exciting fight. I can't wait to put money on his next fight. We're in this whole situation with, we're talking about, behind the scenes betting and, terrible shit that's going on with the NBA. That is not happening here. I have no insider information. I'm just going with consistency. I'm sure those odds are going to be terrible because it has happened so many times. But I mean, 4 in a row, first round submissions by heel hook. It doesn't get more wild than that. Also, ends up being a performance of the night. So there you go. First bonus on the prelims. Then you've got Ludovit Klein and Rebecki. And this was my sleeper. And I wouldn't even call it a sleeper, but this was my sleeper prediction that this was going to be performance of the night. It ended up being fight of the night. Well deserved. Klein was just so clean. He was overwhelming. He looked like he was in danger later in the fight in round 3, but just really slick. Ended up breaking his ankle. So, while he's getting his hand raised, sitting on a chair, talking about how his ankle's broken, like I said, thought it was going to be performance of the night, ends up being fight of the night. Really exciting fight to watch. He's kind of consistently a really fun fight to watch. So, we'll see. But that was my sleeper call. And once again, I was right. Then we have the premier event on the prelims, which was Killen Salkild and Nazareth. I had such a delay reaction to this head kick. I sort of froze. I did my Joe Rogan and then froze and screamed. Mike missed it. I'm pretty sure John Anik missed it too. Just a nasty head kick. The thing that I want to talk about here is it's sort of, I'm sure for Salkild, it felt a little deflating because you have such a nasty KO. I mean, Nazareth was out for minutes. I was genuinely concerned that we saw, somebody who was going to be carted off with a very serious injury because he was not waking up, still on the ground. It was a crazy win. Also ends up breaking his foot on Nazareth's head. So he's injured now, which sucks. He's in a walking boot. But great win. First round finish. I mean, his UFC debut in, I think it was February, KO in the first 16 seconds, won his next fight in June by decision. He's just coming out strong. I think he's on the rise to be sort of a future threat there. So really hope that he gets on that February card with Volkanovski. Rumored, but we'll see. What's next? Then you go to the main card and kind of a snoozer. Legitimately, it's rare that I love watching the prelims. Mike and I talk about it all the time. The prelims always have a lot of action. It's people who are really trying to make their way to a main card, really prove themselves. They're making money to fight. They're making money to win. It's not just a guaranteed paycheck for them, which we've talked a lot about in the sport is just a really challenging thing for fighters to be putting their all into something maybe once, maybe 3 times a year. And, having a bad day end up being, a huge loss for them financially. But, you've got these prelim fighters who just put their all into it. And then you got the main card that was kind of a snoozer, one that I was so excited for. We had the heavyweight division finally back, finally opening up again now that John Jones obviously vacated the belt. Aspinall coming back, fighting Ciryl Gane. You had Volk and Almeida, which I have a lot to say about also. I think, thankfully, the judges scored that one right. But we finally have the heavyweights back. People were held up for a while, figuring out what Jones was doing, seeing how they could really be, in that top 5 contender placement. And now you've got the heavyweights back, really exciting, but kind of a snoozer. I'll start with Alexander Volkov because, first off, he is my favorite Russian. He just is a giant beast. He's a badass. He wins by knockout consistently. But then you've got Almeida, and it's just, he's so boring to watch. And look, I'm not going to knock wrestling in the UFC. If you are advancing, if you are doing damage, wrestling is a strategy, it's a skill. And I think that it is an important part of the MMA community. I do not call what Almeida did wrestling. He made some comment the other day about how he takes more punches in training camp than he does in the ring. Well, it's hard to take a punch when you're just laying on somebody. We saw it with Derek Lewis too. There's no attempt to advance. I think the refs got him up like 3 or 4 times because he was literally laying on Alex Volkov. And Volkov is sitting there like, what do I do? He's just laying on me. He's not trying to, go for a submission. He's not doing any ground and pound. In fact, Volkov is really ground and pounding him from the bottom. The fact that it was a split decision is wild, but everybody really, had been talking about how ground control is the only thing that matters. But I think if your ground control strategy is I weigh a lot and I'm going to lay on you, the judges need to take that into account. That is not a fight. Honestly, I think that is a fact where you are clearly afraid of getting hit by the power that is this giant beast of Alex Volkov. And I'm glad that he won that fight. He deserved to win that fight. The damage he was doing from the bottom was ridiculous. He was making work what he could with somebody who was laying on him the entire fight. And the fact that it was a split decision is upsetting. I was really nervous that Volkov was going to lose that just because of the amount of control time. But my favorite Russian, you brought it home. Also, my favorite Russian, friends with my second favorite Russian, Alex Terrible, lead singer of the metal band Slaughter to Prevail. Also a bare knuckle fighter out of Top Dog FC. And I think he's had his second fight, just a brutal bare knuckle boxer. This guy fights bears in real life. I think Conor McGregor needs to give this guy a call. He's still relatively young in the fighting community. I think, like I said, he's only got 2 fights, but not afraid to take a hit. This guy's face was split down the middle after his most recent fight in Top Dog, and I want to see him in BKFC. Let's do it. Also, I think it's worth noting that this was a really crazy card because, one, it was a morning card out of Abu Dhabi. I love a morning card. I love waking up at 8 a.m. and watching fights. It is my favorite thing to do. It is very hard for me to stay up until 2 a.m. to watch fights. So those morning cards, I'm here for it. I'm all in. But we also had BKFC in Rome, Chris Camozzi headlining that. And we can talk about that a little bit too, because Chris Camozzi, I think, emphatically won that fight. It was such a clear robbery of that cruiserweight belt. I think it was a hometown hero. They just, wanted to give it to their hometown Italian guy. I don't want to knock on him because he seems like a really good guy, 44, bringing back the belt to Italy, all good stuff. I just think Camozzi clearly won. He was striking more. He was striking more aggressively, although I did see him take his mouth guard out at the end, and I'm pretty sure he lost both of his front teeth. For sure, one of them. The other one looked like it was hanging on by a thread. I guess that's the BKFC game, and the level of violence in bare knuckle is just brutal. I mean, there were not that many fights that went to decision because you've got, doctor's stoppage, somebody's eye was sliced down the middle. The level of brutality is just amazing to watch, but also hard to watch. Anyway, Chris Camozzi, that was a robbery. I hate to see it happen. Obviously, leaving it to the judges is always a risk. It's just unfortunate. They don't always. And actually, more often than not, they don't get it right. So, I think it also leads to fighters making rushed decisions, knowing that you can't trust the judges. You can't really trust what they are seeing. By the way, I'd love to get a judge on this show. I'd love to hear a little bit about what you're actually seeing. What are the things that you're looking for? It just, to me as a fan, obviously I'm looking at it from a different perspective, and I think you get it wrong so often. It's hard. And then you've got fighters who are rushing to, get a knockout because they're afraid that it's going to go the wrong way. And I think they have a reason to be concerned that the judges aren't going to get it right. Anyway, that's BKFC. So I have, BKFC on one TV. I've got UFC 321 on another TV. I'm sort of bouncing back and forth because they're happening in tandem. Obviously, UFC 321, we had Mackenzie Dern and Janaroba. That fight, great fight. Mackenzie deserved that win through and through. Mike and I in the episode that will not be mentioned because I didn't hit record, we're talking a little bit about Mackenzie Dern's situation and her husband, trying to take her money and needing to fight so that she could have some money because he's, a pro surfer and taking 70% of her paycheck. whatever. That's neither here nor there. Mike has a lot of strong feelings about that as a previous single dad. Get your shit together, sir. Stop, mooching off of your UFC ex-wife. But I think Dern looked dominant. She clearly won that fight. 2 women who were going to battle. It was actually a really good fight to watch. I know a lot of people said it was an insignificant fight. I think any title fight isn't insignificant. It's hard when you've got Wei Li moving up, going to fight Valentina, because you have 2 just sort of world-class Hall of Famers who are going to be coming in with a vengeance. But I'm excited to see Mackenzie Dern defend her belt. I think Tatiana Suarez is a great call out. We had Bobby Brendage on the pod last week talking about her time in Tough with, being bunkmates and facing Tatiana in the championship and just her wrestling and her style. So I think it'll be a great fight. Can't wait to see that one. Dana White, make it happen. And then lastly, you have Tom Aspinall, Ciryl Gane. Just heartbreakingly disappointing. And people are talking a lot of shit about Tom Aspinall. If you did not see that replay where Gane's fingers go ankle deep, elbow deep into his eye sockets, I don't know how you can call him a pussy. He clearly was training, clearly wanted that fight. I don't think it takes any cred from him. I mean, yes, you've got, folks like Anthony Smith and, Chael talking about how, hey, we're fighters. You're supposed to fight with one eye. You're fighting Ciryl Gane. And look, I think definitively he was losing that first round. So yeah, I don't want to fight the guy when I can't see either. And it was a double eye poke. He went to the hospital right after. Sounds like he's okay. But I think there's a lot of people taking a lot from Tom Aspinall, Dana White included, that it's just, I'm not a fighter. I don't know what it's like, but I'm going against an athletic heavy hitter like Ciryl Gane and I can't see. That sounds like a recipe for disaster to me. I also saw a lot of people posting, a lot of, current and ex-fighters posting about how eye pokes are not inadvertent, showing the gloves, showing, that you have to fully extend your hand. There's been a lot of talk about, should the gloves be different? Do they keep your hands open? You got a lot of fighters who have never had an eye poke, never poked a guy in the eye. I do think there should be harsher punishments for it. I think it should be taken more seriously. Love my man, Michael Bisping. We don't want any more situations like that. You got to get it together. The judges need to figure out, the refs need to figure out, how do we create a atmosphere where these fighters are not incentivized to, and quite frankly, significantly decentivized to make these flagrant fouls. It's getting out of control. And the consistency between what's called and what's not and where there's a point taken and where there's not. I mean, Ciryl Gane was warned. That was the second. He was warned 2 times before that. 3 if you want to count what I'm sure he got a warning in the back from Herzog. And it's just, at what point do you say, all right, we're taking a point? Because it did not look like Herzog was going to take a point. And look, it's disappointing. I think they'll replay that fight pretty quickly. We all want to see it. Tom Aspinall wants it. Yes, I think he was definitively losing that first round, but he was smiling. He was loving it. It was the first time he was going to be out of the first round, maybe ever. So I don't think it takes anything away from him. I don't think he was being a pussy. I don't think he was afraid. I think he was just enjoying the challenge, enjoying the fight, and had a nasty eye poke. That was not a graze. You do see sometimes where people are like, oh, you got grazed. Yes, maybe that sucks. Maybe it was a little bit of a scratch, but those were deep, elbow deep eye pokes. It's unfortunate that people, are saying the things that they're saying. But yeah, so anyway, obviously we didn't put out content last week and needed to get something out there. A lot happened that needed to get spoken about. I'm sure Mike and I will, record and get some more out there soon. We got 2 fight nights coming up. We've got UFC 322 coming up on 11/15, so we'll definitely be having a breakdown on that. Just a lot of good shit end of the year. There's a lot of good fights still coming. And again, I'll say it over and over again, I'm really excited that these are the last few pay-per-views that I have to pay for. My wallet thanks you. We are still a growing channel, not making money off of it, and any way that we can enjoy our fights and not have to Hey, $80. We'll do it. We'll take it.